Hi, everybody, and welcome to week 3 of EDSE 672. I just wanted to quickly run through what we have going on this week and provide a little bit of clarification specifically around the epistemology assignment. So we'll talk through that a little bit. Just taking a look here at the outline for the week, we've got these learning goals. You can see the assigned reading. And then as for our assignments, you really want to be looking through the descriptions of the epistemologies that are provided to you here in this module, and we'll walk through those a little bit as well. Our discussion board will provide you with an opportunity this week to reflect on these ideas further and really figure out where you fall in your own ideas on leadership and your own thoughts for an epistemology, a framework for your approach to educational leadership. So that's definitely something that we can reflect on in the discussion board as well, and that will help to prepare you for number 3 here, which is the epistemologies paper. So it's very important that we look through each of these documents within this module, make sure that we're up to speed on the terms. There are 4 different epistemologies that we'll be talking about, and all of these will be referenced in your epistemologies paper. Then you're continuing to work on your leadership platform. So we've got a document here that focuses in on culturally responsive leadership, and this is more information about the Navajo Nation teacher education, the grant that we were talking about, and that was something that came up in Module 2 as well. So feel free to open this up and please review it just so you have this background and some more information. But next, we do really want to look through these other PDF documents. And again, these will prepare you for the submission for your epistemologies paper. So we've got 2 different PDF documents that will provide you with some information about these concepts. And the first one is right here. And this one is first providing us with a little summary. So you just need to be aware about, as you're considering epistemology, we need to be aware of the definition of that term and these perspectives. And you really want to think about knowing about our own knowing or our own knowledge. How do we gather knowledge? And this really does have to do with a view that would then translate to your practice. So epistemology is the study or theory of origin, nature, methods, and limits of knowledge. So this then would be applied and played out in our interactions and ultimately in our behaviors as a leader. And that's what's so important as our main focus when we're working on this paper. So you can go ahead and open this document. And it will look like this. So this is from the Montana Professional Development Leadership Academy. So when you see that long acronym, that's what the source is. And this is a great document for you to review because it really does provide information regarding all 4 epistemologies that we'll be drawing from as we write and as we participate in our discussion this week. The first epistemology is hermeneutics, and this document provides a great deal of information, some background for you to really comprehensively understand each epistemology, so you can read through that independently. But we do have a cheat sheet that will go through more in depth in the next document. The next is critical theory. Another term could be social theory. So you can read through that. Logical positivism is the 3rd epistemology. And then finally, we've got feminist theory. And so these are the 4 that we'll be examining. So feel free to review those, please, just to get some more background. However, this document is the one that I really wanted to focus in on in this video. And the reason for that is this provides us with our assignment description as well as a rubric. And then down here below is the cheat sheet. So I realize this print is a little bit tiny. Feel free to zoom in. You pull this up on your own PDF. But I do want to walk through each epistemology with you briefly here. And you can review this sheet on your own as well. And then if you have any questions or need clarification, feel free, please, to reach out to me, as well as to research further online and see what sources you can find to get some more depth on these topics. So our first epistemology is logical positivism, and I would refer to this one as well as the next one, hermeneutics, sort of as the idea in research of quantitative versus qualitative. Quantitative approach would fall under logical positivism. So your epistemology, when you're thinking about how do we know, what do we want to know, how do we gather that knowledge, and what do we do with it, a logical positivism framework is going to provide us with a search for the truth, testing and generating theories. We want to predict, we want to explain. The biggest buzzword you can think about to define knowledge is data-driven, evidence-based practices, obviously all very important. And so those are different components of this epistemology that are very important to remember if this is the way that you kind of find and develop information, or if this is what you observe in somebody else. You're thinking about those leaders who are very numbers driven, kind of by the book in that regard, thinking about facts and figures, and using that information to make decisions. And the second epistemology is hermeneutics. So in this epistemology, we're thinking about making or constructing meaning. This epistemology is more on the qualitative side. So we're really looking at experience. This might be where you would be interviewing, conducting a focus group, maybe observing, really trying to generate a comprehensive understanding, a holistic understanding of an experience, and allowing all of those different factors to contribute to your leadership decisions, your values, and your philosophies. So definitely thinking about making meaning, thinking about inductive processes, reflection, interpretation, taking context into account, so recognizing that things are not always black and white, and in a logical positivism framework they might be more black and white. So that's one of the differences here. You can kind of think of those two and compare and contrast them in that way. The third epistemology is critical theory. So in critical theory, we're really thinking about looking at a school, a district, a state, even across the nation from a systemic, looking through that lens, looking at systems. So a systemic point of view. Thinking about oppression. So critical theory specifically focuses on looking at systems of oppression, big picture systems within schools and cultures, and kind of those different groups of people that might be viewed as oppressed in a particular framework. So definitely bringing some of those components into play, and then evaluating that oppression. We could be thinking about race or ethnic background. We could be thinking about cultural differences. Socioeconomic is a big one that we look at here. People learning English as a second language. Many different variables that can contribute to the oppression. And then the idea of critical theory is that in your leadership, you're looking to transform. So you're looking to recognize and identify these systemic issues, disproportionalities, in any of these inequities, and then through a social justice lens, you're looking to transform. And part of the belief that comes along with critical theory as your epistemology would be that education is the tool that can be used, or the setting in which we can begin to create these changes. So what we do as educators or as leaders with youth who are, moving into adulthood and the next generation, this can transform our world and can reduce or even eliminate the inequities that we observe, or these social injustices, discrimination, marginalization, etc. Finally, feminist theory is similar in some ways, as you can see as you review this little visual here, similar in some ways to critical theory, but we really are looking more at gender. So you can review here, looking at societal norms, recognizing knowledge is power, understanding really these systems of discrimination that have been put into place when it comes to gender norming, recognizing that as a current phenomenon or issue. especially because, many might say that, oh, well, the women's rights movement was a long time ago. And so feminist theory shows us that there's so much more to it than that. And it's not just about women. It's about inequities, gender norms, putting people in boxes, basically, and recognizing that we need a change in knowledge, women creating their own knowledge, and then challenging, exposing existing beliefs and concepts. So similar to critical theory in that we're really looking at what we're doing through a critical lens, and we're looking for injustice, but it's more specific here in feminist theory to these gender issues or gender differences, and looking at it from that perspective. So these are our 4 epistemologies. It's just a brief overview. But I do want to go through the requirements for the paper. So this will be a 5 to 7 page paper. We've got the rubric down here below. Basically what you want to address after you study and review these 4 epistemologies, you'll be going through points 1 through 4 in the prompt. So number 1, you're describing a leader. So this is somebody else, and this could be somebody who's influenced students, community, or some other group. So you want to identify that person's epistemology. So obviously nobody, fits perfectly into any one category, but as you consider a leader that you select, you want to think about, does this person more represent hermeneutics or critical theory? Where does this person come from in his or her ideals, beliefs, values, and leadership? So definitely really grasping all 4 of those in order to truly accurately identify the overarching framework that you're observing for that leader that you select. So you're going to discuss the way that you identified that and the examples of it that you have. By the way, keep in mind, this does not have to be the best leader or your favorite administrator that you've ever had, or somebody that you even really, really respect or admire. This is just a leadership figure. So even if you disagree with some of the approach or some of the values of the leadership figure that you select, it's still going to be a valuable process to identify that person's epistemology. And the framework, the values, the background. So please know this could be, any social figure that you select as we're thinking about influencing the community or some other group, or within schools. But this does not have to be your, favorite principal I've ever had. It really can be there's a lot of options here. So I just want you to keep that in mind. Number 2. We are looking at the 3 other epistemologies, so you're just going to want to compare and contrast that leader. So if you select a leader that you believe comes from a critical theory epistemology background, value system, beliefs, actions, you then would want to go through each and say, Sherry definitely does not demonstrate a framework of logical positivism because she rarely evaluates or looks at data. She thinks that, human experience is much more important, etc. So you can compare and contrast each one. And this is another opportunity to demonstrate your mastery of those 4 frameworks. Then our 3rd bullet is, if you were in this leader's place, what epistemology or values would you choose to guide your actions? So you want to think about your own beliefs, and this is your opportunity to say, I align with the feminist framework, or I align with, hermeneutics most closely, and the strongest alignment there within my practice, my leadership, my beliefs, my values is this one, or this one. So you definitely want to just choose one of the 4, and then if you want to bring in a few others, that's fine, but you want to pick your main epistemology after learning about all of these different options. And what would you do if you were in that person's position? Finally, number 4, you're discussing the value in understanding differing epistemologies, those that are not your own, to resolve a situation and provide leadership. So if you really, really are not into the hermeneutics approach, you're still going to want to discuss why is it valuable and important to understand this epistemology, even if it's not mine. How can I use an understanding of it to resolve a situation or to be a more effective leader? So you're looking at those components as well. can take a look at the rubric down here. So we're just wanting to make sure that you're articulating your epistemologies, you're getting them correct as you explain them, that you're analyzing leadership development, your own values, as well as this other person, and then your quality of your writing. Obviously, this is going to be an APA paper, spelling, grammar, punctuation, sentence structure, and just that solid intro, body, and conclusion. So please reach out with any questions, and I look forward to seeing you on the discussion boards.